Hey Dreadful, Series 1, Episode 2, titled Séance, and this episode is the introduction of two things. Basically two characters. Frankenstein's monster, which that story is probably the least interesting, just because you have all this other interesting stuff doing with Anessa, with Dorian Gray, who's the other character, and having just Frankenstein trying to have his monster kind of just creaking through and basically like, this is your name and this is you going outside, you're on free, this is the stuff that you know and these are the words and stuff. I personally was like, can we go, let's go to to the other characters, and the other characters is very interesting. I mean, with Dorian Gray, who is, the whole thing with the show is trying to mush-match popular myths and legends and stuff in those lines like Dracula and Frankenstein, and in this case Dorian Gray, into one show. And Dorian Gray, who is the concept, spoiler, is that he is a guy who never dies. He is immortal, but he has a painting that that shows Dorian Gray as what he would actually look like. He, and he decays and decays in the photo, in the painting, and his introduction scene was kind of like, it's one of those things where you go and say like, I get it, it's pretty dreadful, and you want to make it like a violent, supernatural, sexy type of show, but the scene of his introduction, I was like, what's the point? There's no narrative purpose of it, except having like, Billy Piper's character is working for Dorian Gray, except that. But it's like, portraits and stuff, fine, but the sex scene was on there, and definitely the scene dealing with Anessa's Ives at the end, where she just out of the blue fuck some stranger in the streets. I'm like, well, what's the point? What's the narrative purpose of it? But with the scene, the second time that we see Dorian Gray, where he introduces himself to Anessa, it's really well done, because you understand immediately there's a connection that like both of them are like, you have something dark and deep inside of you, and also the other way around, and that for me, it was like, wow, this should have been the introduction, because like, boom, and it's Dorian Gray, so he says his name, and you can be like, holy crap, and all that stuff. And of course the scene after that, where Anessa gets zest as the title episode goes, at the Séance. And you have that scene, which is so intensely, because at the beginning it becomes emotional, because it's Anessa as this like let's say 10-year-old girl, clearly died from drowning, all that kind of stuff. So it gets very like a emotional sense of it, and then immediately it becomes this intensity because it's like, you think it's done, no, it's not done, because. Yeah, and then that's when you get all the horror, the exorcist kind of stuff of like the body moving ways that the human body cannot move, and how Eva Green plays that scene is really, 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 really well, because like she immediately has, as I said, is like doing all this crazy exorcist movement, while also tending to be this, but having this sweet little young girl voice that turns into this like bitter older woman that is just foul mouth with all begins. It's really that thing. Like her stories, Anessa Ives' story is probably the most interesting out of the bunch, just because like the moment the words came out, you shouldn't, maybe you shouldn't know that the devil was hunting you. Like, what's happening? So yeah, it is one of those episodes where it's better than the first episode. Clearly the next episode is dealing with Frankenstein and his first monster. So there's that, but yeah, but that, which is probably the weakest stuff. So it'll be interesting. It'll be very interesting to see how the season goes on. Or plays on, sorry.